The late Khalif General of Banyaka, Serinset Omar Kebe, has been laid to rest following his passing on Thursday, aged 73. Gambia's oil marketing company has suspended plans to cease operation on Monday following a meeting with the Vice President. And the FAO warns that over 6 million people are expected to face acute food crisis in Somalia. Well, these and more coming your way in this week. Many thanks for joining us. This is Eyeafrica TV and I am Amadou Kante, and now the news in detail. And we begin on the sad news of the demise of the Khalif General of Banyaka. Now, the Grand Marabout of Banyaka, Serinset Omar Kebe, who passed away on Thursday in Senegal, has been laid to rest in the early hours of Saturday morning at his residence in Banyaka. His burial was attended by religious leaders and his talibis, among others. Mourners described the late Serinset Kebe as a pious and good Muslim leader. And let's have more details of the funeral proceedings in this report by Yahya Jammeh.
The 73-year-old Grand Marabout was born in 1949 and died on 13 October 2022. His body was laid to rest in the early hours of Saturday morning around 1:30 a.m. Before his burial, Talibans, including companions in Islam, had described Serinset Kebe as a great man of Allah who practiced the teachings of the Holy Quran and taught many people during his days on earth. One of the sympathizers described him as a man of God who has taught the Holy Quran to many people. No matter how sad this day is, we and his family can handle it because he has reminded us about death. That always comes as a surprise. But we wish that we will be here for 1,000 years. The spirit that was teaching us the Holy Quran has left his body. As the Quran states, if one dies, he must be buried, and that is exactly what we did. He was a great man in Islam and he has taught many the Holy Quran. Serigne Ahmad Chongan, who came from Senegal, described the late Serinset as a selfless individual who always supports his fellows without expecting anything in return. If I were to describe his attitude, I would say Said's attitude is that of the text in the Holy Quran, because what Allah taught us in the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is where Said stood his grounds. All he did was to teach people the Quran, its importance and guidance. He was a man full of empathy towards his fellows, whether in wealth, prayers, or other good deeds instructed by Allah, and expects nothing in return. Another of his fellows said the late said Omar was a tolerant human being to all. He is an individual who is kind inside and out, and was also a tolerant person towards others. What I can tell about him in general is that his attitude reflects the Holy Quran, because all the good deeds Allah taught in the Quran were his way of life. The Imam Ratib of Banjul, Cherno Aliou Maska, said everyone should prepare for death. He said the late Said Kebe was well aware of this and was preparing for the day. The Imam Ratib prayed for his soul to rest in peace and that may Allah bless the good work he has done in Banyaka. For the past years, the late Serinset Omar Kebe led the organization of Banyaka Annual Gamo, which he started in 2007 after he moved from Wellingara Kombo to settle in Banyaka. The late Serinset Omar Kebe was laid to rest at the dara he built in Banyaka. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Yahya Jammeh.
And we join the Muslim Ummah here in the Gambia and beyond to continue praying for the late Khalif General soul to rest in eternal peace. Now, moving on, oil marketing companies in the Gambia have abandoned initial plan to cease operation after an emergency meeting with Vice President Badra Diouf and relevant stakeholders of the oil sector. The seized operation was set to be effective on Monday, October 17th. Moses Imendi has the details in this report.
The threat to cease operations by oil marketing companies came in the wake of what they cite as difficulties of the current fuel pricing structure in the country, which to a large extent is as a result of the current global energy crisis. The announcement of Monday, October 17, as the date for cessation of operations by the OMCs was perhaps a leeway for the authorities to come up with creative ways of solving the crisis and avert the suffering caused to thousands of commuters as happened the last time operations were shut down in September. Mohammed Haidara is a representative of the oil marketing companies and earlier on Saturday confirmed the decision to cancel the planned action after a meeting with the Vice President of the Gambia, Badara Diouf.
We've deferred our planned action, and it's been deferred simply because we were invited by the Office of the Vice President in a meeting that he was chairing. And in that meeting, there are other cabinet members, few of them present, with other stakeholders and ourselves. And in that meeting, it gave him a singular opportunity to be able to understand exactly our problems, what we have been talking about, and what has actually been affecting us. And then we were able to show and explain to him probably what he has not been hearing or what he didn't know.
According to Mohammed Haidara, the Vice President vowed to consult all relevant stakeholders in the oil sector and seek out a solution for the crisis once and for all. But until then, OMCs will continue to operate at a loss due to numerous setbacks.
And then we are also able to show him that it is not us refusing, as been said by many people. The fact of the matter is, we couldn't just continue operating, even if we want to, because we have a lot of backlog of LCs, that is letter of credits, that are due for payment in the banks. Some of us have about between 5 to 3 LCs that are lining up in various banks that are matured, and they are charging penalties because they are matured and they couldn't pay them. And as usual, banks will always charge penalties for that. And these are huge losses that we are making, and these losses are not captured anywhere in the pricing structure. And then the other thing is the availability of Forex. If you are in the business sector today and you do import-export, everybody will agree with me that the availability of foreign exchange is a challenge in this country now. So, and that has also posed a serious challenge to us. Not only it is not available, but the rate itself has gone up so badly that central bank's rate on the pricing structure is $55.74 per dollar. But in the actual fact, when you go to the local commercial banks and try to source this dollar, it is not only a challenge to even access the dollar, but the rate is seriously high. They're charging between up to $62 for each US dollar. And this disparity in rates also are huge losses that are not also captured in the price structure. And now the other final one is, even if we said, okay, we will still continue to practice business at a loss, just like how we've been doing it in the past. But if you're not able to settle your supplier, would you be able to get supplies? No.
Earlier on Friday, the government issued a press release in which it expressed its dismay in learning of the OMC's planned action as the pricing structure was done in consultation with the OMCs. Mohammed Haidara concedes to this fact but stressed that the government attempted to outsmart them.
So this time around, when they say it is in consultation with OMCs, yes, it's true. But what we agreed, they forgot to tell the public also, we've agreed on a 2% LC rate to be put on that price structure. What they did, they wrote the figure 2% on the pricing structure, but when you crunch the numbers, you realize that that is a deception. Yes, it is 2% written on that paper, but in actuality, the real value they have actually put in the price structure is 1.5%. Maybe they smartly thought we would not know, but we are very good with our numbers. When we crunch them, we see where the fall comes from. And we wrote to them that that has to be reversed, because that's not what we've agreed. Then, about the Forex, we told them to reflect the actual market value.
He said the OMCs are determined to serve the interests of the Gambian people amid these challenging times, and had the government been responsive, these situations could have been averted. Fuel prices are now declining after many months since the energy crisis caused by the war in Ukraine. But in the Gambia, commuters are still paying higher than normal prices despite government subsidy in place. Moses Imendi, Eyeafrica News.
And of course, the decision there by the OMCs to continue operation on Monday would come as a good news to the Gambian public, especially the commuters or people, of course, the commuters, I should say, or the transport sector. Now, moving on now to some legal matters, because the manslaughter and negligent trial involving Sena Mumbai, Kibili Tembele, and Chernombai have been adjourned on Friday. Banjul High Court Judge, Justice Ibrahim Jaite, adjourned the case to next week, Monday, to allow the prosecution to put their house in order for continuation of the trial. Sienna Mumbai and the two others answering to charges of manslaughter and exposing a child to danger, they have all pleaded not guilty to the charges. And our very own Mapuji Sise has the details in this report.
State Prosecutor Mohamed Sow had earlier requested the court to grant the prosecution an adjournment to allow him to tender the Afrimaid Hospital referral document of the late Mohammed through the 8 prosecution witnesses. But the accused person's defense attorney had objected to the request, arguing that the said referral document was prepared by Dr. Castellanos and questioned why it would be tendered through another witness. The prosecution, however, replied that they will advise themselves either to recall the 7th prosecution witness, Dr. Castellanos, to tender the said document, or call the 8th prosecution witness who has the original version of the referral form. When the trial resumed on Friday, lawyer Yahya Jammeh announced her appearance for the first accused person, Sena Mumbai, whilst lawyer Kombe Gay and lawyer Sagar Thomas announced their representation for the second and the third accused persons, Chernombai and Kebili Dambeli. Continuing the trial, State Prosecutor Counsel Sow informed the court that the witness wants to speak in Spanish, urging the court to order an interpreter to come from the Foreign Affairs Ministry. This did not go down well with the defense team, who argued that the witness could speak in English and had been dealing with Gambians in English. In reply, the witness affirmed that he can speak English, but it's his international right to speak in a language that he is comfortable expressing himself, since it's a court trial. At this juncture, the trial judge, Justice Jete, informed the witness that he needs not to speak that big English or law terms, but will only tell the court what he does as a medical doctor and what happens when the late baby Mohammed was brought to him. Both the witness and the prosecution's indulgence was sought for the witness to speak in English, which both of them agreed. Continuing his testimony, Dr. Eda Perez Castellanos informed the court that the late Mohammed was brought to the Afrimaid Hospital in critical condition on July 3, 2022. The medical doctor who attended to baby Mohammed at Afrimaid International Hospital informed the court that the late baby Mohammed was suffering from severe respiratory distress at the time he was brought to Afrimaid Hospital. Dr. Perez explained that the late Mohammed's family told him that the child was locked in a car for 4 hours. He said he checked all vital signs and found out that the oxygen level of the late Mohammed was 22% instead of the normal oxygen level, which is 60%. He said in a normal person, it should be between 100 and 120, but the late Mohammed had at the time 22%, which Dr. Perez said is very, very low compared to normal oxygen, which is above 90. Dr. Perez further explained that when the child was brought to the hospital, his oxygen level was low, which was the reason they gave him 5 liters, gave him adrenaline and 2.50 death rate, and 150 milligram intravenous status before referring him to Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital in Banjul in an ambulance with a nurse to increase the oxygen level to 72%. He explained that the adrenaline was meant to increase the contraction ratio and that every individual will develop hypoxia after 10 minutes of not having access to oxygen. He added that when a person suffers from asphyxia, the brain starts to damage easily. In the case of Mohammed, who was locked in a car for 4 hours and has not had very good oxygen and started having hypoxia, and that is why he gave Mohammed adrenaline to increase his heart contraction and increase the oxygen. Dr. Perez reveals that it is correct that hypoxia is caused by low oxygen in the body, and some patients will have a precondition such as asthma, conjunctive or cardiac disease. But in the case of Mohammed, there is a precondition of hypoxia, and this can prevent the flow of oxygen to the brain, and that nobody told him that the late Mohammed was sick before he was locked in a car. Dr. Perez explained this was the reason why the late Mohammed was put on oxygen for 30 minutes before referring him to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. The Spanish doctor said he has been working as a medical doctor for 30 years and has 25 years experience as a consultant. Mafuji Sise, Eyeafrica News.
And of course, this is Eyeafrica TV, and you are watching this week's news edition. And from the report there by Mafuji Sise, we now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Eyeafrica TV, and you are watching this week's news edition coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. And let's now look at the rest of the stories. Now, the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, warns some 6.7 million people in Somalia are likely to suffer from acute hunger this year, including more than 300,000 projected to face famine. These projections reflect the population still in need of urgent assistance after accounting for already planned assistance for October to December 2022. Humanitarian needs are extremely high due to the impacts of 4 consecutive seasons of poor rainfall and an anticipated 5th season of below average rainfall from October to December. Mariama Cham tells us more in this report.
Aside from the projection of high-level food insecurity, an estimated 4.1 million in Somalia are currently in need of food assistance due to the compounding impacts of extended drought, flooding, desert locust infestations, the economic impacts of COVID-19 and conflict. Consecutive years of poor rains and harvests have decimated crops across Somalia, including South Sudan, Ethiopia and Kenya. Briefing journalists in New York on Friday, Agent Peter Smith, FAO's representative in Somalia, said that over 1 million people are now displaced in search of food, of which half of the number are women and children.
Approximately half of those that are facing famine are actually in rural and hard-to-reach areas. We know that we have over 1 million people that have now been displaced, of which 80% of these displaced people are women and children. We know that famine is expected in 2 districts of Baidoa and Burakaba. This is in Southwest State, further down in Somalia, the southern part of Somalia. Clearly, if assistance doesn't reach the most vulnerable in these areas immediately, we will be in a famine situation.
The FAO rep in Somalia adds that most of the women and girls going in search of food can be exposed to gender-based violence.
Women and girls are being forced to trek much longer distances to access water, shelter, which also makes them more vulnerable to gender-based violence. Of course, we should not wait for a famine declaration to act, because then it will be too late. We know from 2011, when we faced a famine situation and a famine declaration, that by the time the famine was declared, half of the 260,000 people who died had actually already died.
According to FAO Rep, the current drought is the worst in the last 4 decades and has affected about 7.8 million people, about half of Somalia's population. Acute food insecurity in Somalia has drastically worsened since the beginning of 2022, with an estimated 4.8 million people experiencing crisis or worse conditions. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
And on to our final story now, because Tanzania is bound to join the fray of introducing cryptocurrency into its local market and emulate few African countries such as Nigeria in accepting the digital currency. Cryptocurrency expert has been training thousands of people in different African nations, including Tanzania, on how to use the currency. This African country central bank has since revealed plans to introduce digital currency into market. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Welcome to the class.
Elibariki Sheila's mission is to spread blockchain technology knowledge. He created one of the very few crypto learning hubs in Tanzania. For the last 6 years, he has taught over 5,000 people in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, Ghana, Gambia, Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo. He says he uses physical meetings, events, and online video conferencing platforms to equip crypto enthusiasts with more resources to thrive and make money.
What we are doing is basically to make people aware that cryptocurrency blockchain is real and you can make money once you have the right information and the right strategies. Then you can make money. So we still have that challenge. People want to make quick money. People don't want to sit down and learn.
In November 2021, the Tanzanian Central Bank announced it was looking to allowing cryptocurrency trading in the country, and that it couldn't ignore the technological advancement of money. AAA, a Singaporean cryptocurrency research firm, estimates that 11.7 million East Africans own cryptocurrencies, 6.1 million in Kenya, 2.3 million in Tanzania, and 2 million in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Nigeria became one of the first countries in the world and the first in Africa to launch its own central bank digital currency, dubbed the e-Naira, back in October of 2021. According to media reports, the e-Naira saw over 400,000 new wallets registered, with 12,000 transactions worth $11,000 in less than 2 weeks of launch. Elibariki says he's hopeful now that the Tanzanian government is getting more involved.
We are moving, we are catching up with other countries that are spearheading on this revolutionary technology. So I am seeing this is a very important move, and as a government raising a voice on that one, it means even us who are involved in teaching and raising awareness, it makes the work easier, and a lot of people will understand cryptocurrency.
The central bank is currently strengthening the knowledge and capacity of its officers on digital currencies as part of the preparations in anticipation for the launch sometime next year. Despite this, it warns that there are still risks, as recently the global crypto market saw investors suffer billions of dollars in losses due to the volatile nature of cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrency advocates say the increase of more blockchain classes could help the country get a step closer to the goal of improving crypto literacy and adoption. And as the sector grows, it will create new job opportunities, as many are able to learn new skills in order to remain employable globally.
Interesting report there coming from Dar es Salaam, the Tanzanian capital. Well, I only don't know how soon, or of course whether the cryptocurrency will be introduced in the Gambian market, but probably very soon, because Gambians also have been trained on how to use cryptocurrency. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you in this news edition. But of course, for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit our website on Eyeafrica.tv. For now, though, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching, and do have a pleasant weekend ahead. Bye for now.